Welcome back. We've been watching the sentencing hearing in North Carolina for murder defendant, convicted murderer now, Taz Zarka. He is that convenience store owner that was charged with second-degree murder but found guilty of manslaughter by a jury yesterday, accused of killing and found guilty of killing 27-year-old Mark Garrity. And now it is time for the judge to impose the sentence. Let's watch.
I wanted to make sure we were clear because, respectful, I know that Mr. Newton had stopped at that portion, but it also said, but the decision to depart from the presumptive range is in the discretion of the court. And I respect our law and laws, and I respect our legislators. They're not sitting here. They're not sitting here. We have 3 branches of government, and the judicial is one of those branches. I respect the legislators, and they give me the opportunity to look at the law and follow the law. But they also tell me that I have discretion. In any republic, at least in these United States, when the judge, he or she, has discretion, that means judicial discretion. And with judicial discretion, for any judge, he or she has to look at the totality of the circumstances. I keep asking myself in this case, with all of the things that the supporters of Mr. Zarka said, and even Mr. Zarka's own words, with all of the things they've said about him giving the shirt off his back, giving people drinks and food, if that's who he is, why wasn't he that person on April the 6th of 2023? Why not just give Mark the drink? If that's who he is, why not just give him the drink? And it doesn't escape the court. If you look at that video, when Mr. Zarka comes around the counter and pulls his knife out and heads towards Mark. Where was Mark? Mark was headed towards the counter. What did he have in his hands? A bag and ice cream. Well, if Mark was this true person that was going to just rob and steal, he had the ice cream in his hand. In plain view, it tells me, using reason and common sense, he was probably walking to the counter to pay for the ice cream because it was in his hands. Was he going to conceal that right there at the counter? He had the ice cream in his hands. Mr. Zarka even testified he never actually saw Mark conceal the Gatorade. Let's say Mark did conceal it. That's fine. But if this man is somebody who says he will take the shirt off his back and give it to somebody, give them drinks and food, why not do it that day on April the 6th? As I said, Mark was walking up with a bag and ice cream in his hand. It would have been a different story if Mark had walked in with a gun and said, with a mask on, give me all your Gatorade. He didn't do that. He didn't walk in there with a gun and say, give me all your Gatorade. He didn't try to hide his face. From what I saw, I think he was walking up to pay for the ice cream. And it wouldn't shock me if the ice cream was cheaper than the Gatorade. And he may have had enough money to pay for the ice cream and not for the Gatorade. But did he deserve to die for that? No. 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 You know, I'm a judge.
The judge, this whole trial, this judge has been great. Keith Gregory, Judge Gregory. He is not just going to lay out a sentence, he is going to tell a story and then deliver the sentence. Jack writes, before we hit a break, this guy, the way he interacted with the family members, especially the victim, he's got a heart. I mean, he's not an old jaded judge that just, it's refreshing to see.
Yeah, when we think about what makes a good judge, what makes a good judge is somebody who can make hard decisions. What makes a good judge is somebody who can understand the analysis of it. But this is also about humanity. This is also about life. This is also about struggle. This is about the ability to look at these people and say, I stand before all of you, and I will treat all of you as fairly as I possibly can. I love it when I see a judge like this apply the law like this and never forget at the same time that they're just lucky to be on the bench themselves, and they're going to apply it with as much common sense as they possibly can. I love that.
Yeah, and the storytelling and all that is so because we do see a lot of judges who do not want to explain anything, don't feel they have to. You know, you talk about that judge up in Indiana with the Richard Allen case. Doesn't care if people watch the trial. It's her world, and there's a ton of judges who have that sort of feeling that we
call that Ted, the black robe syndrome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's called. What happens is when you wrap that robe around yourself, at a certain point you start to disconnect from everything around you and everybody around you, and you start seeing your role through this myopic lens. Well, the difference between those kinds of people and Judge Gregory here is the ability that this is somebody who is looking at the entire room. He's looking at everybody involved, and you realize that the victims are all of those family members, but also the people who stood up and said, I'm behind Mr. Zarka, and said, let's look at the disconnect between what you said, which we appreciate, and why he didn't apply to this day. Right. That's the brilliance of somebody like this who can do that, balancing both sides. I love that so much.
Indeed. All right, Jack Rice, thank you as always. Always fantastic to talk to you. Have a great holiday season if we don't talk to you before. Quick break, more of The Judge right after this.
Order.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rowlands. Good to have you along with us. We're covering several trials across the country. Today in North Carolina, we've been watching the sentencing hearing for Taz Zarka in the killing of the convenience store trial. In the jury found him guilty of manslaughter. That was a lower charge. We're going to go back there, pick up the judge's sentence just momentarily. We're also in Pennsylvania. The defendant in the CEO shooting case back in court this morning. Luigi Mangione now on his way to New York, extradited and now into custody of NYPD. We'll have a live report coming up from Scripps reporter Avajoy Burnett later this hour. And in New Mexico, defendant Janine Jaramillo returns to court this afternoon for sentencing. We've been watching her dramatic trial over this past week. We'll finish up the trial and watch the sentencing together. 4:30 Eastern time. She's facing 8 charges related to faking her kidnapping and leading police on that high-speed chase that ended up with 2 people dead. Jaramillo was convicted of at least one of those charges. We're not going to tell you which one yet. Was it the top charge? We'll find out this afternoon, and then we'll watch the sentencing. It should be very emotional. Family members expected to address the court and address this woman who made up that crazy story that ended up taking 2 wonderful lives. 4:30 Eastern. Again, we'll have that for you on Court TV. Let's head back to North Carolina. We're all waiting. What's going to happen to Taz Zarka? The defense wants the judge to depart down, go less than the 5-year mark that he is facing for the involuntary manslaughter charge. The state and the victim's family want the max. Let's see what the judge does. Let's pick it up right where we left off.
I want to make sure I'm clear about this. His addiction did not kill him. Mr. Zarka did. An addiction doesn't care about your race, your gender, your religion, your sexual orientation, because it's a disease. That's what it is. It's a disease. And I commend Mark for recognizing that and wanting to deal with it. I commend him for that. Now I want to remind you, Shauna, where are you? You have a responsibility to continue to remain sober. Do it for you. You have that responsibility. You're not a bad person. You're not a villain. You have a disease. That's what it is. Mark had a disease. That's what it was. It hits everybody. Doesn't make a difference the type of job you have either. It's a disease. I think Mr. Latour said, he said, Judge, the state did its job, the defense did its job, and the jury did its job. And he politely said, or inferred, that now it's time for the court to do its job. And Mr. Latour and Mr. Newsom, I say ad nauseum, without fault, that I've been a prosecutor, I've been a defense attorney. The DA has an objective, the defense has an objective, but the court has a responsibility. And I took an oath. I took an oath to follow the law and to be fair and impartial. And I live by that. And there may be some in the audience, respectfully, or out there, that want to blame people. This court takes I don't have a dog in this fight. But what I do have, and what the citizens of North Carolina have entrusted me to do, is to be fair and impartial, follow the law, but not forget my common sense. My common sense tells me, respectfully, that Mr. Zarka had a choice. In that video, he gave a little boy chocolate. He gave a little boy chocolate. That was somebody's son. He could have given the Garrity's son the Gatorade. He could have done that. He could have done that. He didn't have to pull out a knife. He didn't have to go towards your son and then stab him in the heart, in the heart. And if he was so scared and afraid for his life, he could have stayed behind that counter and called these people that we call law enforcement officers. When your son came to the counter, he could have said, I know you've got Gatorade and I know you've stolen it. I'm not going to let you come back to my store anymore. You're trespassed from my store. He could have said that. Reason and common sense. Reason and common sense. $3.25, $3.90, whatever it costs for a bottle of Gatorade, that's worth losing somebody's life over? Really? Are you telling me that's worth it? And I'm going to say this, for those of you that may be animated in the audience, for those of you that said, Mr. Zarka is this and that, if this had happened to your child, you'd be sitting right behind Mr. Latour, sitting right behind him. Because if you're a parent, you love your child. So no, Mark Garrity is not, in my eyes, a thief, a crook, someone addicted to drugs. He's a human being. He was a human being deserving of just that modicum of respect as a human being. So, yes, I will fine Mr. DA and Mr. Newton. I think the court can recognize the mitigating factors that have been indicated or enumerated by Mr. Newton on the record. But the court will also find these mitigating factors in my discretion do not outweigh a presumptive sentence. Given that factual pattern that occurred and what this court saw, no, this is not a mitigated sentence. And my job is not to punish, because I'm not up here to punish out of any selfish means and so forth. My job is to be fair and impartial, and also not to forget to use my reason and common sense. My reason and common sense tells me, respectfully, that this sentence is deserving of a prior record level 1, Class D felony. I will sentence Mr. Zarka to 64 months minimum to 89 months maximum. That is the maximum I'm allowed to do under the law, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to give him all the credit he's entitled to by law. This is an active prison sentence. I'll make a finding of fact that he's serving a lengthy sentence, and when I say lengthy, it will never compare to the sentence that Amy and Mark Garrity Sr. will have for the rest of their lives. I had the opportunity, as I always do every morning, to text my son and tell him I love him. And he always has the opportunity to respond. Amy and Mark won't have that. So, give him all the credit he's entitled to. I'll make a finding that he's served an active sentence, therefore I'll waive the court costs unless there's an agency that needs to be heard. When he comes out on post-release supervision, he shall have no contact whatsoever with the Garrity family. While he's incarcerated, he shall have no contact with the Garrity family. While he's incarcerated, he shall participate in any anger management classes that are available to him while he's incarcerated. If, in fact, there are no anger management classes out on post-release supervision, he shall be required and ordered to participate in any anger management programs that are available after consulting with his post-release supervision probation officer. While he is on post-release supervision, it may sound nominal, but I still believe it's important to have him do some community service. I'm going to order him to do 100 hours of community service while he is on post-release supervision, which means that when he comes out of prison...
All right, the judge sentencing Taz Zarka to 64, the minimum to 89 months. That means he's doing a minimum of 5 years in prison for this murder. The involuntary manslaughter verdict handed down yesterday by a jury, and now this sentence, which is what the state was asking for and the family, and not what the defense wanted. They wanted a downward departure.